Hey everyone, welcome back to DWeb Decoded, a podcast by Filecoin Foundation exploring the intersection of blockchain and the data economy. I'm your host, Aaron Stanley, and today I'm joined by Marcus Levin, who's the founder of XYO. Marcus, great to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's awesome to be here.
Yeah, amazing. So before we dive in, why don't you give us like a quick TLDR of what are you building at XYO?
Yeah, we are a reality bridge, like connecting data from the real world to blockchain and Web 2. And we are also a proof of location type of oracle. So it's a lot of our stuff goes around location.
Okay, amazing. And yeah, definitely you guys are one of the OG DePIN projects. I think we were talking before the show. Like I think I actually first encountered you guys in like 2018. Right. May have interviewed a couple of your co-founders. I don't know if I talked to you, but a couple of your co-founders anyway, about what you guys are building. And so you guys have definitely earned your stripes, earned your keeps here. So we're gonna dive into that. Before we do, maybe why don't you give us a quick introduction to yourself and kind of what's your background, like what's your professional career look like, and then how did you end up deciding to start this project?
Yeah, I'm from Germany originally, as my accent might tell, and I ended up in California. But in between, I lived in a few countries all around the world. I was a business consultant at some time. I studied a PhD. Was a dropout though, and then I worked with startups in tech, and then I started an ad tech company, which sold after a few years, and then a data company, which also sold, and a media company, which also sold. And then I started a Bitcoin mining company in 2013. And that Bitcoin mining company did really well. And then, I was so fascinated about blockchain back then, and obviously now even more. But, for me, it was all about the borderlessness, hippie kind of thing, the same as I was like traveling all over the world and doing all these things. Like blockchain was manifesting that for me. And so I was excited about it. And that went out a little bit again when I did some other tech stuff. But then in 2017 and 2018, came back into blockchain.
Awesome. And then I think, thinking back to the first time I encountered you guys in 2018, it was really sort of a kind of IoT, like geolocation based network using blockchain. Maybe talk a bit about like what was the original idea for XYO, and maybe, I know you've kind of pivoted, kind of added a few different layers onto it. So maybe talk about what it was when it started, and then where do you guys, what's the state of the project now?
Yeah. It's all has been like an evolution, but we still do what we started out with. So we realized at some point, location gets easily spoofed or hacked, right? You can download a GPS spoofing app and pretend that you're in London right now while you're actually in New Delhi. And that's a problem for most apps on your phone, but also for self-driving cars and smart cities and the economy of the future. And so we created a network of connected devices with those devices to cryptographic handshakes and prove each other's proximity to each other. And as you have more interactions with other devices, you get more and more certainty, and you can have relational maps and those kinds of things. And then on top of that, you can build a lot of things. Like you can do some asset tracking, for example, RWA tracking. You can do real treasure hunts, and like the opportunities are endless, right? You can prove that you're the person who was in the restaurant, when you write your Yelp review, or that Aaron is the person in front of the ATM, like when you take your money. And we scaled that quite nicely in 2018 and 2019, but we tried to build these proof of concepts with T-Mobile and SK Telecom, with South Korean Telco, and it was just grueling. First, back then, as we remember, only 2% of the US population had touched crypto. So first, everybody thought we are drug dealers, right? When we came and we said anything blockchain on crypto. And today it's almost 20%, so it really changed, but it was hard like that. And so we thought like maybe it's not the best approach to go to these legacy companies to try to grow our network. And then we had conversations with Niantic, the makers of Pokemon Go, and with Yelp, for those reviews, and many other companies, but still it was a little tough. And so we decided we need to be more a solution provider and in our approach than just a blockchain company. And so we launched a mobile app called Coin. And the app makes your telephone basically something as an IT device. So it is part of the XYO network and is enables you to geomine and do this proof of location. But now today, we enhance this and you can collect much more data. So you can collect other sensory data, or you can collect even offline data. Let's say the opening hours of a restaurant, or you can, take pictures of clouds and you name it, right? Whatever is needed. And then it gets validated and verified through the XYO network through proof of location, because a lot of data is location dependent, but also through other proofs we have, like proof of origin and so on. I don't want to bore you. And this really enabled us to grow our network, because now we have more than 10 million nodes in our network, which makes us, I think, the largest DePIN out there. And and about 80% of the people who come into our network are non-crypto users, and they want to earn money on the side, or are interested in crypto and try to figure it out, or they have all these different motivations, right? There's a lot of truck drivers and Uber drivers and really anyone. And we change it. So now they don't earn XYO anymore. They earn points, and those points are tied to the US dollars. So they're easy to understand for someone who's not a crypto, but you can take these points and exchange them for XYO, but also for airports and PlayStations or sweepstakes entries, stuff like that. But 95% of the people exchange them for XYO in the end. So we onboarded millions into the crypto sphere. And one more thing, we also, your XYO before, you were only able to redeem it into your wallet, which is complicated for some people, to custody and worry about those kind of things. And so we have a partnership with Coinbase, where XYO is listed, so that you can send your XYO directly to your Coinbase email address. And so you don't even need a wallet anymore if you don't want to. And this really supercharged what we did. Now my grandma can go and download it, not knowing anything about crypto, and just be part of our DePIN network. And it was this evolution. So as I mentioned, we are still doing what we started out with, but now we are a broader data company in the crypto space, basically.
Oh, amazing. And it makes a lot of sense. The problem that you guys are solving, right, is I think anybody who's used a VPN in crypto knows how it's sometimes you can spoof these applications fairly easily and say I'm in Australia, or I'm in South America, or wherever, or I'm in the United States, right? So obviously so what you guys are doing is sort of taking the kind of the Web 2 primitive of these kind of crowdsourced information sites, like a TripAdvisor, or a Yelp, or Google reviews, or any of these types of things that they obviously provide a lot of value to people, but there's not really any way of verifying that. There's no, there are I guess some ways of verifying that this transaction actually took place, or this person was an actual customer, but there's not really any sort of immutable way to prove that, okay, this person was actually physically at this location, right? So that's sort of the value that the blockchain brings to this whole equation, I suppose. But maybe talk a bit more about that, and then also I'm interested in knowing a bit more about the app and how does this actually work? How can people actually use it, and what do they have to do to earn points?
Yeah. So what you're saying is super important, right? So there's the reviews, of course, but then in DePIN, there's a problem, that some of those sensors are not where they're supposed to be. Like they say, a weather sensor, right? You might say, it's outside your house in wherever you are, right? But it's actually in my basement, and I have 10 of them together. And that's a problem, right? Because, obviously it's a problem because the data is wrong, but also, people get paid for it. And so it's like a doubly fraudulent, it feels like. And so we are able to solve that by providing a proof of location for a device, for example, right? You can prove that the device is at your house, for example, or in your house, or on top of the house.
And if I can chime in with an example here, it just came to mind. I had a friend who used to organize these POAP scavenger hunts at conferences, where she would kind of put these POAPs around the city, like around different side events. And, you have to, if the first person who could go and scan all these POAPs or whatever, these codes, claim that, scan a QR code, claim the POAP. And if you get the first, get 5 or 10 or whatever, you get like some kind of prize, right? But then she realized that it wasn't working. It's because people were just going and finding the POAP, finding the QR code, taking a picture of it, and then just sending the picture in group chats to like people all around the world. So like all these people in, like India or wherever were claiming these POAPs, even though this scavenger hunt was taking place in New York. And all these people that weren't even physically there were. So obviously like people in crypto are pretty good at gaming these types of things, if you give them an attack surface, right? So continue on. But like, I think it just illustrates like why something like this, what you're building is important.
No, you're absolutely right. That's we use, for example, Bluetooth, started with Bluetooth beacons and Wi-Fi and GPS beacons and so on. And today we also use NFC cards. We have NFC chips. Also, we speak with some companies about connected clothing, where you can provide, for example, the treasure hunt you mentioned, but it's 10 friends and you go jogging together, for example, right? And if you make it for the 10 miles you want to jog, right, then you get something in your app. Maybe you earn an NFT, and if you have 10 NFTs, then you get something special. I don't know. Like you can have these games, right? Or you can incentivize people to show up at a sports event, for example, right, where it's like everybody who's in the stadium is part of a raffle, and if you win, you meet Ronaldo or I don't know what, or you're a VIP because you sit in the first rows, and so it gives you special access to some special portals, and there's a lot around this digital experience, where we connect the virtual and the real world. There's so much more I think we can do, especially when AR becomes more prevalent, augmented reality, and we can overlay our experiences and they're location dependent. Then it's going to be really exciting, I think, because then we're going to be able to really play games in the real world. Regarding the app, so in the app you can download it on coinapp.co, and you just the basic function there is called geomining, which basically allows your app to do cryptographic handshakes with other devices. It does digital fingerprinting and some other things, but around location. And then you can have more features in there. So for example, there could be an on-demand data collection feature there, which could ask like, find me all the restaurants in the zip code, for example, and take a picture of them and write on the opening hours, or find all the ATMs in Manila, or let's say you're in a place where there's not enough weather stations, and take a picture of the clouds, for example, or take a picture of the soil and show me how it looks. Is it dry here? Kind of this type of things, and then we can use that data, to train AI, for example. Right. And our correct AI's hallucinations, but also we can use it for like a million applications. Like we have like partners with real estate and many, like a lot of geolocation type focus things, but like any data collection really. And we made more us can prove it, right? Because we have more than $9 million in revenue. Actually, it's $9 million, not more. $9 million in revenue last year. We have the XYO Foundation, and then decided we have the XY Labs for profit company, and XY Labs was the first crypto company which was qualified by the US SEC to do something called a Regulation A offering. And subsequently, we tokenized the shares of the company as well and have more than 24,000 shareholders. And because of that, we have audited financials and annual and semi-annual filings. So, we believe really that DePIN works, and we have proven that DePIN works. It's a big thing right now in crypto. As you know, being around for such a long time, there was so much talk and hype and so on, but DePIN is so proven, it allows you to build a business model which works in bear markets, and versus, the projects from 2017, the ICO boom, most of them are not in existence anymore because the first bear market, the tokens lost value, and the project had to shut down. And our tokens also lost value, right, in bear markets. And we had a few of those since 2018. Actually, we launched in a bear market, but we are fine, and we love bulls, but bears are also fine for us. Our user acquisition becomes cheaper for our app in bear market.
So well, hey, that's an upside, right? That's a bonus.
Yeah.
So with the app, then, like, so basically, it sounds like there's, as the user, if I download the app and I'm using it, there's, there'll be various kind of like tasks or challenges that I can complete. To like, hey, take a picture of this, or to go to this restaurant, take a picture of it, or take a picture of the menu, or whatever, like some sort of data collection task, basically, that I get rewarded for performing. And then, but like, who originates these tasks? Is that can companies who have data needs, can they submit these requests via the app if they want this type of thing crowdsourced, or like how does this all get originated?
Yeah, so right now it's a little bit more manual. So they come and say, we have these needs, and then we create the tasks for them. But we have a thing built where you should be able to self-serve. So you say, I want to know all the ATMs in Manila, for example, right? And you just put it in there, pay with XYO or USD or whatever your currency is, right? Then it gets exchanged for XYO. And then you should be able to do the tasks. With one of our partners, we also work with an API integration, so where they basically are able to do the tasks on their side. They use a simple API. They're a Web2 company, and then, it gets translated into our ecosystem.
Okay. And then, so how do you go about finding these partners who have tasks or challenges? Is this, and like maybe what types of, I guess if you give some more color of like what types of entities are that are, would find this useful? Yeah,
unfortunately it's mostly Web 2. I think it's going to be Web 3, more Web 3 soon. We have a partnership with Chainlink and others, but in Web 3, but most of our demand comes from Web 2 today. I think it's going to change as DePIN overall is going to grow more, and data needs in Web 3 are going to grow more. But it's mostly Web 2 companies, and it's either word of mouth, or we find them at conferences, or, there's a lot of XYO community out there. We are around for more than 7 years. I'm always surprised someone calls from company ABC, and says, I've been a fan of XYO and I downloaded the coin app in like 2020 or whatever, it's like, I have such a cool way how we can work together. Those things happen a lot as well.
And then, I'm just curious as like more specificity around like what types of entities would be finding this useful? Like, would it be like kind of like some of the examples you're talking about earlier, like like a restaurant review site, or like a travel review site, or even just like a Google review type of thing where, somebody comes and posts a review, but how do you know that person was actually there? Like just sort of practical use cases there, like what types of folks are like seeing the value in this immediately?
Yeah, for the on-demand data, for example, it could be real estate companies trying to figure out where to build the next restaurant, for example, or the next McDonald's or whatever. I know I said McDonald's is not a restaurant, which it isn't. but for example, that, or how do people travel from one venue to the other? Like, let's say if you go from the restaurant to the cinema kind of thing, maybe you should have more entertainment venues around this restaurant. What else can you build there? This type of stuff, like intel about foot traffic kind of thing. And then also, we have companies which want to calibrate their data sets. So, for example, there is, in the case of the restaurants, for example, we have a partner where their data set was wrong in 60% of the cases. They're a bigger geolocation company, and they didn't know that. And so they use us to calibrate some of their data sets, so they knew, what data is right or what data is wrong. And so our nodes would go collect that data, and we validate, verified. And it was, in our case, it was 99.9 something% correct. And then, they were able to figure out, like, okay, this data is wrong, this data is right, and they were able then to help fix the whole data.
And then, so these types of entities, I mean, what's been the process of these types of folks understanding like the value proposition of what you guys are building? And I'll preface this question by just noting back to my previous life. I was covering like some online gambling, because like online casinos back in the 10 plus years ago. And there's this whole, I think like New Jersey had legalized online gambling, but like, so you could gamble online in New Jersey, but if you went across the state to New York, you couldn't do it. Right. So there's all these like geolocation compliance companies popping up that were like verifying your, okay, are you actually a citizen of this like state or whatever? You can actually access this type of service. And I think like, to some extent, these things are pretty spoofable, like, right. Like what you were describing earlier, like if you use a VPN, like they're not going to know, like, how are they going to know that you're not actually in New Jersey. Right. But like, I guess coming back to the question, especially since you're dealing with Web 2 companies that aren't maybe like super excited about the token and the blockchain and the consensus and all this stuff, but they're just interested in like, what's the value I'm getting out of this? Like what's been that process like of, when you're first introducing the idea to them, and then all of a sudden they kind of like, oh yeah, this is actually like a better solution than what we have currently.
Yeah, it was a learning curve for us. We started with like, we have this blockchain and crypto thing, and you have to pay us in XYO, and it's going to be awesome, and whatever. And then, of course, shut down every conversation at some point, and then we learned, the real economy mostly still runs on fiat, right? And so we said, okay, we take US dollars, no problem, and we go and buy XYO in the open market and then put it into the ecosystem. And so we had to learn to become solution first, and then technology second, because we as a company, we're such crypto nerds, right? And so it was interesting to learn that, and I still see it sometimes on our website in our material. It looks like I'm the guy who goes to crypto conferences, so I talk with other crypto nerds, and then we use our jargon, and then the rest of the world doesn't understand it. Our users and nodes, as well as companies we want to talk with, and so we're trying to be better with that, obviously, and come with a solution first approach.
And then you mentioned that you guys have over 10 million nodes now. So each node, just to clarify, is like a person with an app on their phone that's participating in the network. Is that how you define a node in this context?
Yeah, and can also be an IoT device. So
okay,
like the Bluetooth speaker or NFC chip or whatever.
Okay, amazing. And then I guess for these types of networks, what is like the critical mass of nodes for this to really be like? I know 10 million sounds like a lot, but I suppose when you're comparing it to Google, maybe it's not that much, right? But like, at what point does you should be very proud of getting 10 million. It's pretty good. I'm not trying to downplay that, but like, at what point do you get kind of like the critical mass for this thing to like really lift off in your view?
It really depends on the use case. If you try to do asset tracking every second, and it's in an open space, and you say you want to make sure that the asset is tracked, like every stop on the way, it's hard to do that, with 10 million devices, But if you have a confined space, it's very possible, right? Or if you have a task and you have enough nodes in an area, then it works, but density is a problem. However, it's crypto, so you can incentivize people to do what you need to do, right? If you need to collect some data, for example, then you can incentivize people to go somewhere, right? To earn that crypto, and just you have to pay more for that data, for example. There's other use cases like, for example, we have partnership with Upland. Upland is a metaverse play, which is like a monopoly in the metaverse, and they want to bring the game into the real world, right? And we want to enable them to, if you go to certain places, you're able to buy the properties, basically. So if you go to the Eiffel Tower, get the property. And that works well because at those places, there's other people who play the game, but also you have more connected devices around there. Then you can fingerprint the location. There's other ways also to enhance the proof of location data set and cryptographically secure it. And it's not only one-on-one interaction between devices.
Oh, so that's interesting. So it's like a Monopoly game. It's but that bridges kind of virtual and real world, right? So if I go to the Eiffel Tower in real life, I could buy that. I could buy that property in the metaverse game, basically using this proof of location to say that I was the first person there, basically.
Right.
That's pretty interesting. And then maybe let's just quickly talk about kind of your tech stack. I know we don't have to go super deep into this, but I know you guys have launched your own layer 1 blockchain, and I know you've got. It looks like you've my preparation for this. Looks like you guys are doing like a proof of consensus or a proof of. Sorry, what was the? Looking through my notes here, trying to. It was like a consensus model I haven't heard of before. So I was like, that's different. But maybe talk a bit about that, and maybe how did you kind of build this based on like the specific needs of, you're kind of talking about like solutions first, tech second, like, but how did you arrive at this tech and this to fit this solution?
Yeah. So for the last 7 years, we tried to avoid building a layer 1 or layer 2, and we wanted to be chain agnostic. We as this middleware technology connecting with all the other chains, and we're collecting validated and verifying data, and we're connecting with the chains. And nobody has built a data focused layer 1 except you guys and some others, but not in the way we needed it. And so we built the XYO layer 1, and the XYO layer 1 is a data focused and DePIN focused layer 1. And it's based on a bunch of new things. One of them is proof of perfect, which basically finds you the best proofs to a solution, because not all answers are certain. There's 50 shades of gray sometimes in a response, and sometimes you need a consensus where there's a vote to see which one is most perfect. So that's where that proof of perfect came. If you look at the S, for example, the right believes something else than the left. And that is just it's underlying data and it's storytelling and those kinds of things. And with proof of perfect, we try to create a consensus which is based on a vote.
Awesome. And then maybe just to wrap up here, we've got just 1 or 2 minutes left, but I mean, it seems like you guys have done a really good job of kind of iterating, really talking to customers, being in the market, really finding this, elusive product market fit, right? That I think a lot of DePIN projects maybe have kind of run into this same problem of like, oh, is this a service that people actually want and that they'll actually use? That's actually solving like a real problem for somebody. But it seems like you guys have really kind of hit the sweet spot in terms of providing a solution that people are interested in, that enterprises are interested in, and also incentivizing the nodes in the network to participate, right? Maybe talk a bit about just like just to close out, like some of the lessons you've learned on just like this this question of product market fit and the struggle to really finding it, and any lessons you might be able to pass along to others who might be following your footsteps here.
Yeah, I see lots of DePINs up panicking, because they struggle to find the product market fit, but they don't look at our history. We were the first DePIN. We launched our mainnet in 2018, and as I mentioned, we told the wrong stories to the wrong people, and it was just a mess, and we had to reinvent ourselves and just be resilient and find make it work. Pivot a little bit here, pivot there until we found the right model. And that's, I think, how best the startups are built. Most of them start somewhere, but actually end up somewhere else when they're successful. And that's the same thing that happened to us, but we evolved. And I think the rigidity is a problem, especially in crypto and blockchain, where everything's so new. The word DePIN got invented just 3 years ago. And now there's more than 2,000 projects out there, building DePIN things. And so I think it's like everybody just has to take a deep breath and I'm sure, most of them are going to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Still early in the game, right? So even just because the initial pass of the idea doesn't work doesn't mean you're you're a failure or something, right? There's always multiple bites at the apple with these things. Well, this has been super interesting. It's great to reconnect with the XYO universe here. I guess it's been like 8 years so it's been a while, but like I'm glad to see you guys are like still trucking along here. This is great. And really appreciate you coming on the show, Marcus, and telling us about what you guys have been up to, and wishing you all the success in the next couple months here. And anything on your roadmap just before we close here that next 6-12 months that we should be looking out for.
Yeah, we have a super exciting time ahead of us. We're going to launch our XYO layer 1 blockchain next month probably, and with it a whole ecosystem of data focused and DePIN enabling, right? And we're going to make it easy to onboard for companies into our ecosystem. And with it, we launch a new token also called XL1. And XL1 token is internal to the layer 1. It's for like transactions and gas and dApps and so on. The XYO token is external for the DePIN ecosystem with the rewards, staking, governance, and so on. And so we're going to be super busy over the next 6 months, to build that and release it.
Amazing. Well, Marcus, where can folks go to follow you and to learn more about XYO and the Coin app?
Yeah, the best start is to probably follow us on Twitter or X, official XYO, and then go to coinapp.co to download the Coin app. And if you're interested in partnering with us, just send an email to partnerships@xyo.network. And even if you just have vague ideas, but maybe there's some ways we can figure things out.
Amazing. Well, very cool. Marcus, appreciate your time. And thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you next time on DWeb Decoded.
Thank you, Eric. This was awesome.